Hey, John, just get comfortable.
I was so concerned.
What do you want to do? I mean, what way to look like you guys have these nice. Sure.
Maybe.
I'm so glad I did the tour today, Mickey B, because I closed all 3 of my rings. I was very concerned that I wouldn't get to work out. I'm good now.
Yeah,
I ran all around the high school today twice, so I'm good.
10,000 steps I had today.
And Mick didn't even feed us.
You believe that, Jama? Terrible.
Disrespectful.
That's what it is. That's what it is, Dr. Graham. I wasn't gonna say nothing if you didn't, but.
Steve Rivera, how are you, sir? Yeah, but just transitioning away.
How we doing?
Dr. Sampson, good evening.
Good evening. I think we got the culture piece already taken care of. We got the culture piece of the presentation already taken care of.
There you go, Takisha. You're all set then.
Miss Nazar.
All right.
Hello.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm out. Culture's done. That was me.
Culture's done. That's it. We're done. If anybody ever questions the culture, they're in the wrong meeting.
I'm trying to catch folks as they come in. Miss Nazar.
I'm trying to figure out what your background is.
Coffee?
I'm sorry?
Trying to figure out your background. It's like you're underwater.
It's just the Zoom. It's the standard Zoom background. It looked nice and neutral, and yeah.
It actually looks like you're floating.
It's the right color. Yeah, we got some I'm working out of my bedroom right now, and it's a pardon my dust situation here where we're doing some refurbishing. So I thought I'd spare everyone that. But I told Michael maybe next time we'll show off.
I love it. Refurbish in a suit and tie. That's the best.
You got that right. First class all the way.
Yep, there it is. All right. Dr. Graham, do we have everybody in?
Yes, sir. I believe we do.
All right.
I'm counting board members, so give me 1 second here.
You got it.
I got 1, 2.
Doesn't look like Tim's on yet.
Yeah, I think we might be waiting. Is Yvonne on? Yes,
Tim's on his way. Tim's on his way.
No, Yvonne. There she is.
Tim pop on in. I'll be ready to get started on my end.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, what's up? How you doing, Chief?
Okay, buddy.
Good to see you, Billy.
Okay, good.
I see you have the post-construction background there, Mark. Some people are still under construction. You've got the post-construction background.
I'm here. I made it.
Hey, Tim.
Yes, yes.
What time does our 5 o'clock meeting start?
The 5 o'clock meeting will probably start at the same time all your late fired up 5 o'clock meetings been starting as of late. I just figured it was.
I always like to harass Tim about my meetings. So I'll call the board meeting to order at 5:02, I believe it is. You all right if I go first, Dr. Sampson, get it open?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard.
Here.
Ms. Nazario.
Here.
Ms. Johnson. Mr. Sturgill.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Tardy.
Our roll call is done. I'll let you get your roll call done, Dr. Sampson.
You got it. So we're going to call this meeting to order for the Lorain ADC, and it is 5:03 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Coffin.
Here.
Mrs. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Rivera.
Here.
And Dr. Sampson.
Here. All right. And on to the Pledge of Allegiance. But before we do the pledge, if we could all just do a moment of silence for the over 500,000 who've lost their lives to COVID, and for the victims in Atlanta and in the Boulder, Colorado area. So let's keep those in prayers, and also those personal ones that we've lost. Let's take a moment of silence, please. Okay. All right, Chief, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Chief. I think it's only fitting with the loss of one of your brethren in Colorado.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for the republic, and
under God,
for which it stands, under God,
indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just had surgery, so.
No, Chief, we totally understand. It's hard emotionally on everybody. And then you have your physical health as well to deal with. So we do appreciate the service that you've put in for Lorain every single day, putting yourself on the line and committing to people. I don't think people actually understand the level of commitment it takes. And that's been your entire life. So we are definitely appreciative of it.
Okay, thank you. If I have trouble hearing doctors, I just had ear surgery, so.
Okay. All right, and you know what? I think I'm going to use that one when we're done with this call as well.
Okay.
I'll tell my 3 kids, hey, I just had my ears. I can't hear what you guys are saying.
I took the bandage off for this.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Chief. And then let's we'll do our approval of our agenda, Mr. Ballard, and then you can go next if you don't mind.
That's fine. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Approval of agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
All righty. Mr. Cawthon,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
and Dr. Sampson.
Yes.
You good?
Good.
All right. So I'll just get a motion from my team to suspend the order of the agenda so we can go right into the reason for our purpose of being here for the ADC meeting. If I can get a motion from my board.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson, and Mr. Williams.
Yes.
All right. This move, we'll suspend our order and we'll go on silent and allow the ADC to continue with their meeting at this point.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody being out there joining us. The messaging system is open. So if there's public comment for messages, please be sure to put those into the messages. And we have an excellent team of high school folks who are also engaged in this, and they can directly answer any questions regarding tonight's information that's being shared. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to the CEO, Superintendent Dr. Graham, for any updates regarding the strategic plan, and the focus of the ADC meetings moving forward will be on the 4 components of the strategic plan as well, and other items as needed.
Dr. Sampson, Mr. Ballard, I appreciate you. And what we're going to do, and I know that we've got some things outlined on the agenda, and I think we're going to kind of encompass those, and not necessarily in that order, but I think we'll do it in the package like we discussed earlier today, Dr. Sampson. I think we can get everything addressed, and actually a few extra points. But please, at any point along the way, if anybody that's on a square on the screen has a question, please ask it. Again, our goal is for these meetings to be informative and engaging, to make sure that we're providing the proper information, not only to the people on the computer, but obviously the people in our community. So as we have since our strategic plan was approved, I'd like to start with an update on exactly where we are with our strategic plan. And to that, I will look toward Michael Scott and Ross May to be so kind to lead us.
Michael, you want to start? You want me to start? Let me share my screen here to pull that up.
Share your screen.
And I had a request, and I apologize, I went down before, but if you could walk folks through how to navigate, I know we did this at the last board meeting, but in a conversation I had recently, if you could walk folks through at some point and identify on our website where the strategic plan is and how it's navigated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
So yeah, so just to get there, and we'll go to a couple of spots here then and to set things up. So from our main page, if you just go on over district, and then the very first link underneath there is strategic plan, and you click on that link, it'll take you right to the plan and the associated documents. So once you're here, there are a few different things we'll point out. The plan in its entirety is right here on that main page, and it is set up to be like a flip book. So you click the bottom corner and turn the page, and on the next page you go. If you don't want to hear the flipping sound, if that's annoying, you turn that sound off. But yeah, it's right here. So that's where you find it. Oops, in one way. On the left side of the screen, then we've got menu bars that you can click on. And if you want to look specifically at our goal, you can click there and it'll take you right to the goal part of the plan. We want to get to the healthy culture part or any other part, click on it. And then you'll get to this screen where you'll have an overview of our belief statements, a description of the strategy as a whole, how we'll measure it. And then underneath that, to see the action steps, if you click on any of the words, it will expand and you can see the action steps specifically linked to selection in this case. You want to close it up, Just click on the word selection. Maybe you want to look at the coaching parts. You can click coaching. And you'll always see the action step. You'll always see the timeline when this action step is targeted to be addressed in the plan over on the right. And then underneath, you'll always see a reference, and you can link back to the National Implementation Research Network, or NIRN's site, about, in this case, coaching, since that's what's expanded. And then just a short quote from one of their modules on why that's important. So if you go all the way to the bottom, then you'll always see the overall timeline for this part of the plan. And so you can see the action step that's listed, when it's targeted to be implemented, all the way out and across for 5 years. The color coding matches, and we talked about this the last time, but it matches the implementation drivers, which is the framework that we use to develop our plan. And that framework is from the National Implementation Research Network. They've really defined, these are the elements that you need to have in place to implement really anything. And so those items to have in place are a selection process, training, coaching, all these items that we have listed here, and that they need to be directly addressed. So that's the pattern that you'll see on the left side. Now we also, I'm going to go back a screen, go back to our main plan screen, have here action step trees we have. And so you click on this, we have a number of action steps in our plan, and they're intentionally sequenced out over 5 years. But it's not like it's just a linear step within healthy culture, and that's done. And then we get, once healthy culture is done, then we go equity, and then it's step. The action steps integrate and compensate for each other. So our tree that we work through as a group is designed to reflect that, and the order and sequence that will work. So underneath everything here is HC3, and we'll talk in some depth about this action step here this evening. And so HC3, if you click on that, we'll take you right to what that action step is. Make that a little bigger. And so that action step is to design and execute a protocol for forming teams. So we've talked a lot about collaboration throughout this year. It's a foundational part of how we just operate and do business as a leadership team. And our first action step is to design and execute a protocol for forming teams. And so underneath that, identifying competencies needed to be a member of that team, and then a selection process that has an application interview process. Then underneath that, we set a clear purpose for the objectives of the team, and then that we would make reference to, and we've got a few different items here. Again, the National Implementation Research Network, Massachusetts Institute of Technology has some references in the audit improvement process. So that action step is a really important one, because once we accomplish that, then our district leadership team forms, and then our district leadership team is going to have a number of action steps that they're going to start to tackle here in about a month, once we're back from spring break and our leadership team has been formed. So that you can then see, once this action step is complete, TL4, then we go to TL16, which has 3 that all connect to it. Over here, maybe tighten improvement process 4 has 2 healthy culture action steps that connect to it. So this HC3 is a really big one, because that's how we're going to be picking our district leadership team. And then once our district leadership team is in place, then we'll take off running from there. Michael, you want to hop in here? Others that have been part of the development of this before we go into more specifics about HC3?
No, Ross, I think you've done, as always, excellent job of being thorough in our process. The only thing that I would like to add is, as we move through this action, it is so important when we talk about the implementation and monitoring of our plan. This group is going to be essential for that. And it's also important for us to recognize, as we develop our district leadership team through the selection process, that we do some collective relearning about the purpose of our district leadership team. In the past, it has been, and I, as a building principal, as part of it, an opportunity to show and tell what was going on at the building level, and it fostered at times a competitive environment, and it really wasn't a decision-making process as much as we want it to be. So our review and revamping is just to do that, and to align our practices with the Ohio improvement process.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Yep. A couple other things just here on the website to help navigate. If you click on the left side, the plan timelines. Again, you can click and expand any of these items here, and it's just another way to get at the timeline for implementation. So you can see each action step, in this case under healthy culture, and when that's to be implemented. The past plans. Again, this was an intentional effort by a number of our folks that we've done some of this work already, and we're right. And so again, we talked about this the last time we met, but we had a group intentionally go back and look 10 years to look for what the plans that the district has had have entailed, and then intentionally look for overlap. So there are a number of items in our plan that have been in past plans, and they're good ideas, and they need to be implemented, and they should be part of a plan going forward. So there are a number of items where we are not starting all over again, but we can learn from and apply some of what we've done in the past going forward. So that is here. And then the last item on the side, we've got just a really nice video here that is an introduction to the plan, and also shows how to help navigate through what's on our website. So just another accessibility feature for folks to be able to tap into and follow our plan. So with that, then let's go to just a status update of where we are. Unless, Jeff, is there anything else that you wanted just to help maybe, or if I'm missing?
No, that's perfect. That's perfect, Ross. Thanks. I know a lot of you have seen that before, but not everybody catches all of our meetings. And those of you that do, it's still every couple of weeks. So I think it's nice to get a reminder out there on how people can engage in the process and keep up to date with what's going on. So I just want to make sure we emphasize that point. Thanks, Ross.
Ross, I'd like to just comment too. I know on this whole the whole plan time too, I'm on the strategic team. It's just been good to hear, like, it's a collaboration amongst everybody now. Like, I've been through all the different plans for the last 10 years, whatever, and it seemed like a plan was handed to everybody, and here it is from top down. And this wasn't done that way. This time is actually brought from teachers to the principals, district leadership. It's just been a great collaboration. I just want to comment that it seemed like it's a great plan going forward, and it's a lot of people involved in it. It's not like the past, I will say. I just want to comment on that because I've been through a lot of the different plans over the years, and it wasn't done this way. And not just for me, but teachers now are part of the plan. Like, it wasn't just a CEO made the plan, here it is, and run with it. And buildings are involved now. Every principal meeting, they're going over the strategic plan with them to get them involved, and it's good collaboration. That's all I want to say. So,
yeah, thanks so much, Tim. Yeah, thank you. So let's update then where we are. And so distress commission members, you guys should have gotten an email from Barb this afternoon with access to this. So we'll just walk through again these pieces, and then we'll show you where we are. So this document here is designed to be very intentionally us monitoring and keeping track of our work. So when you open it, the first thing you'll see is goal progress, and you'll see our goal statement, and then it's empty right now. So this is a baseline year for us, and we will start filling this out at the end of the year, so we can see where we're starting. And so on the left side, again, it's the progress towards our goal that within 6 months of graduation, we're going to keep track of the percent of students that are enrolled in a post-secondary program, employed, part of an apprenticeship, or enlisted in the military. And then on the right side, we're going to keep track of then the percent of students that are on track or accelerating their learning at a rate to be on track to be college and career ready. There's nothing to put there yet because we aren't at the end of the year yet. On the strategy progress, we will keep track largely of our strategies overall. So strategy and healthy culture, equity, our improvement process, student supports, and teaching and learning. But many of these items actually are action steps for us to create that measurement. So the measurement, again, being for healthy culture, we have an action step for our district leadership team to create a survey where we measure culture. So our baseline collection should be the very end of this school year that lets us know where we are. Then we'll do an equity audit again later this year. Our improvement process, we're going to look at implementation data on teacher-based teams, building leadership teams. This will more realistically will be in the fall before we start collecting baseline information on that. But this is where we'll measure overall in a large sense the growth we're making, and especially to start with our adult practices that we need to support as part of our plan. The next tab over, full list of action steps. This is every action step in our plan written out with when it's gonna happen. It's the same information here that feeds the website. And then the next one, so this one here is, it's kind of our project management board that lists, again, all of our action steps, but now in an interactive manner. And as we start our action steps and complete them, we can keep track of where we are with each of our action steps. And then you can look to the right, and again, the color coding just lets us know when we're implementing and should be implementing these action steps. So the very first one, we referenced it with the action step tree, is HC3. If you're using this on your own, if you hover over top of that HC3 or any of them, the descriptor of that action step will come up. So you can just hover over it, know what it is. And then when you click on it, it'll take you right to that action step. So here's what we've been working on, and we've been working really hard on this. This is our designing and executing protocol to form our teams. And cursor's not cooperating here. There we go. So here's our action step. The first thing we do as a team when we start an action step will be to define our success criteria. So for us to have success with that action step, this is what we need to do. Then underneath that, we'll have our start end times. Back out a little bit. Our action step managers, the implementation team as a whole. I'll just keep going down the left side. Our meeting minutes. So you can see the dates that we've met. You can click on the meeting link, and it'll take you to our minutes for that meeting. And then here's how we keep track of it. So within each action step, we're going to have tasks. And you can see, oops, one too many again. You can see the tasks that we've had. So create a checklist with resources for the district leadership team and action step managers to use in forming teams. Edit and brand the checklist. Develop a possible rubric attachment for credibility and collaborative, which is part of our selection process for our district leadership team. We've referenced a number of Dean Fixon's articles on selection. So we had some learning in there with one of his articles. But you can see all of the tasks that are listed, who's responsible for that task, by when. If there's any cost associated, there's no cost with any of this that we're for this action step. So there's no funding source. And then we keep track of the status. So if this is an item that we're just starting, it's in progress. If it's an item on our list, but we just haven't gotten to it yet, maybe it's a next step for later on in the week or something, or the following week, we haven't started it yet. And then when we're done with it, we just click complete. So we, can keep track of those items. And then as we develop those items, we just link them right here. So, we can take a look and see what we've created. So our leadership team selection process, for example, I'll click that link. And this is our process for us that we put together to form teams. And let me zoom in again a little bit. So this process here applies for our district leadership team, but then also will apply for forming, for example, an MTSS team or a curriculum team or other teams. We'll have a purpose statement. This is the applicant information that we're going to always collect. We're going to be really intentional about gender identity, years of service, as well as racial identity. We're going to be extremely intentional about equity, and we want to make sure while mathematically it's impossible for us to mirror our student demographic with staff right now, we want to be really intentional that we are paying attention to equity around gender identity, around years of service, and around racial identity. So those will always be part of our team formation process. Then we boiled down, whenever we're forming our teams, that we need to be intentional about expertise, about credibility, and collaboration. That anytime we're forming teams, if we are clear about the competencies and expertise that our teammates need to have to be a member of that team, that sets us up well for success. And we talked about that being expertise fluent in the relative practices that would promote successful intervention, and then the ability to identify, address, overcome challenges and barriers. That's generalizable expertise to any team that we're forming. For credibility, we said it really boils down to, if you're an expert and trustworthy, you're credible. And then under collaboration, we talked about being able to facilitate a bidirectional flow of communication, commitment to navigate changes and challenges, and then again, communicating your learning, progress, impact, and why to implementation teams. So no matter the team, this is what we're looking for. And then we'll link, and I'll show you what we put together here with our district leadership team. We'll link then the tools that we develop right here. The last part is anytime we're doing a selection, we always need to have follow-up, and we want an intentional discussion decision about how are we following up? Are we following up by email, in person, or over the phone? Just to make sure that we're really intentional about communication. So this is our generalizable team selection process. Let me pause here because that's quite a bit. Michael, anybody else on the team, things you want to hop in on to add emphasis or correct for that matter if I misrepresented any of this?
No corrections, but to emphasize, we have great staff throughout our organization. And our job, our task, our vision is to provide a space where different voices can be heard. It's not to go down a history journey, but there's been a lot of times where the same voices are heard, and those voices are great, that have been heard over time. But what we want to do is also make sure that we have a space where those that may have been underrepresented in the past find representation and find an opportunity to have a voice. It's critical when we say things like healthy culture and we say things like equity. This is the action, the beginning of the action behind those words and those action steps. So this is critical. So this is a plea to all when you do see opportunities to be a part of teams, to put yourself out there. And the idea is then to form a well-rounded team that is not only diverse in representation, but diverse in skill set as well. It's going to be critical for us.
Others, before we go to some of the other items we've got? All right, so we'll take a look at some of the other items, and just here, if you wanted to read the article, you can take a look at it. I'm not going to spotlight that now. But we've got interview tasks, screening tasks. So again, these are all live links that will take you to those that are applying to be part of our district leadership team, what we'll use as our selection process. We've got our notifications here. We'll spotlight this here. So on April 6th, we'll send out after spring break. We'll post and then send this out to all staff, but with the purpose of our district leadership team. What the district leadership team members will be doing, the time commitment, who can apply, we've given attention here that all DLT members need to be collaborative, they need to be credible, and they need to know and be passionate about best practices for equity. Some, but not all DLT members need to be data-centric and able to explain data in an easily understandable manner, be a questioner of data, and know best practices for standards and instruction. We've got how our DLT members will be selected. What if you apply and don't get picked? So that notification will be going out April 6th. Here's our actual application. We'll just show you again just a little bit of it here. But name, contact information. Again, we're always going to pay attention to racial identity, gender identity, and then years of experience. Job categories here, building, again, all those items that you just saw in that document before. And then here are 2 questions, and it's no secret we're going to pose these to everybody here that is interested in applying to be a member of the district leadership team. But our screening items here are related to equity and then collaboration. We were intentional also about designing for everyone. So we want to make sure that we don't have barriers in place. So if you're comfortable typing your answer and doing it here, perfect. If not, if you'd rather do an audio recording and send that off, perfect. Either way is fine. We don't care about how you communicate it. We care what you're communicating. So that's that. I guess we'll just finish it out.
And while Ross is scrolling here and setting up the next page, I just want to emphasize the point that he didn't skim over. He mentioned it, but I want to emphasize it. There's a section on here for job categories. When we're talking about our district leadership team, this is not just a bunch of central office administrators. It's more to Tim's point that we want to have all perspectives at the table. We'll have some central office folks. We'll have more so we'll have building level administrators, teachers, and support staff members to make sure that voices are heard. Everybody who works in this district is an educator, and their perspective is important. And we want to emphasize that, and not just in the words that we share at a board and academic distress commission meeting, but in how we behave on a daily basis.
Yep.
Dr. Graham or Ross, about how many folks do you think will be on the DLT?
Yeah.
Right now-
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So all total, probably between 25 and 30. And it's going to, we've got kind of a range, but once we get the people to apply and then we look at the scoring and how our team complements each other, probably in that 25 to 30 range, closer to 30, actually, as I'm thinking about it now.
And candidly, one of the challenges that we predict is the fact, and Michael mentioned it earlier, the way things had been, is that buildings, everybody had involvement, but we were more, lack of a better phrase, more general contractors, individual or independent contractors, and we were expecting our buildings to compete with one another. This model is the exact opposite, where some buildings may have several people on the district leadership team and some may have none. So our goal is to make sure that everybody is represented the right way. So we have to make sure that we're bringing people along. So it's, again, that's why it's important to make sure that we're comprehensive and including all perspectives.
And one of our early action steps is to design our communication vehicles within the district. So we've had some folks have said, in years past, every single building had multiple people represented on the district leadership team, and multiple people have referenced it as like a wedding reception. We are going to be smaller this time around, but our again, one of our first steps is to make sure that we develop a communication, series of communication protocols, so that we have a leadership team to lead, to make decisions, and not just a leadership team really solely for representation. So we are intentional about role and making sure that voices are from different work groups or staffing groups rather are intentionally represented. And we need to make sure that our communication is intentional and intentionally designed in the front end. So one of those examples of this then is just how we're going to communicate with those that apply to be part of our district leadership team. So we have three items here that are going to guide us. We will communicate with everybody by phone or Zoom, so not through email, but a personal call to inform them whether they're moving on to an in-person interview or not, emphasizing empathy, appreciation for their application, and then that we will follow up with them. We talked about making these calls in pairs. So everything is done to this point has been collaborative. We're going to keep going in a collaborative manner, and that for those that do not move on, we talked about, we are telling some of our own staff likely no, and we need to make sure that we still know, they still know that we still love them and care about them, and that they are absolutely vital members of our district team. So we need a personal follow-up with them, and then after a week or two, again, a second personal follow-up with them to check in on it, make sure they're okay. Other items that they had to, maybe still contribute in possibly other teams or implementation teams. So we have our follow-up procedures here, as well, for those moving on or not moving on. Trying to be really intentional about designing our communication. Then
just a couple points here while you're setting up the next page.
Yep.
Two things. First of all, there's a lot of discussion that the group had surrounding the number of participants. We know we need to have more non-central office people than central office people, but we also want to make sure. So it's the balance between. We talked about in the past there were too many people on, in our opinion, too many people on the DLT. But we want to make sure that we have that fine balance between being large enough to be comprehensive, but being small enough to be effective and to be nimble. So work can get done. It's tough to do in a group of 60. But I also want to make sure, and I emphasize this every time I talk about the past, that in no way, shape, or form are we being critical of any of our preceding leadership teams. It's just a different approach. And so again, we're not saying anything negative about the past. We just have a different thought on how to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So then the next thing here is just to show that where we started with our generalizable process that would apply to any team that we're forming, at the district level here, but then us actually using our process. So the purpose now, you can see our purpose statement for the district leadership team. So the purpose is to collaboratively support adult practices and student achievement through sustainable implementation of the strategic plan by leveraging our improvement process / Ohio improvement process. Again, the applicant information, you saw that on the application, and that'll be there. Underneath here, we just link then the tools that we've developed that gets at expertise, that gets at credibility, that gets at collaboration, the notification of follow-up. We talked about this already. It'll be either in person or over the phone, not email for our district leadership team. Take a big step kind of back on this. Is as we complete our tasks, we just always know where we are. And so as of this afternoon, we're 100% complete now with this task. We're ready to go. So April 6th, we'll send out notification again, posting for our district leadership team. And we expect to have our district leadership team picked and ready to go by the end of April. And our next group kind of activity here as a planning team is to develop now the orientation process for our district leadership team members. So let me pause here again. Other things, anybody else wants to hop in on here? All right, good on that. So then maybe I won't get back there quickly. That didn't come up. So you can always click this return home link, and that'll take you back to this page here. So then we've got a 100%. This one's complete. So then the next thing up is our orientation. And so our orientation will start. That's down here under Tighten Improvement Process number 4. But develop an orientation process for members of the district leadership team to provide background knowledge on the Ohio improvement process. And so we'll just go there real quick. So here's our blank slate. We'll need to define our success criteria, projected start and end date, who the managers are for that implementation team, the implementation team itself. We'll define the tasks, and then we'll get off and running with it. Questions? I think those are the main things. I think are just where we are, what we've been up to here in the last couple of weeks with our plan development.
Questions from the commission or the board?
So this is Patty again. I don't have any specific questions because you guys have been super thorough, but just would like to comment how impressive this document is and how it links all together. And I imagine it took a ton of time to do this, and I hope that it's as useful as we think it's all going to be, but really, really superb job, Ross. This is pretty good stuff here.
Yeah, we got a pretty good team, don't we? It's pretty cool what we've been able to put together here.
And I think it makes it very clear that I would caution the general public because everybody wants results yesterday. And this spells out the time it takes to actually get results if you're thoughtful about haphazard, knee-jerk reaction because somebody across town wants something done right now and yesterday because they're taken to the radio, social media, newspaper, whatever it is. It has been practice of the past, and that's just not Lorain, that's across our industry. So this really helps temper down some of those knee-jerk, I want results now. This is a process and it takes time, and I saw it had a 5-year window on it. And even in those 5 years, things will change. The pathway will alter a little bit, but it's altering by design rather than influence of a knee-jerk reaction. So I like it. Good job.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate your comment there, Dr. Sampson. It's easy to put together a plan and it's easy to check off boxes and say we're following a plan. Where the true skill comes in is making sure that the plan is an appropriate one. And again, ours is, and I think put together with intention, but it's also the implementation piece. And for us, if you look at the plan, you'll see these aren't based on what our kids are going to do differently. It's how our adults are going to work together more collaboratively. And in my mind, that also translates to more efficiently and more effectively. And once we start to behave in that type of culture is when you start to see that accelerated student growth. So I appreciate your recognition of what our plan is aimed at and what it is and what it isn't. And again, I think that if you look at the action step tree, it demonstrates that, I think it kind of illustrates that once we get this district leadership team in place, it kind of takes off a little bit. So the pace at this point has been slow, but because it took longer. And we're not going to rush through. We're not going to sacrifice quality for speed. So I guess I just want to, again, thank you for that comment.
Yep.
Okay, we have one more quicker presentation for you. And that's going to be, obviously, we talk about summer slide and the struggles that our children have when the school year ends in June and it starts back up again in August. And there's not that constant reinforcement of school and all the things that go along with school, not just the math, reading, science, social studies, writing part. There's a lot more to it than that. And our students, and although some have done very well, and again, I applaud our staff for what they've been able to accomplish. It's been absolutely amazing to go from where we started in August to where we are now in March, and how much and how willing our folks have been able to lean on each other to get really good at this remote learning. But as we know, some of our students need more than that. They need to be in the presence of our adults on a daily basis. And that hasn't happened here for the past year now. So the question is, what are we going to do to provide some of those supports to offset some of those struggles that our kids have experienced in the past year? So Barb and Rachel, and I got too many squares on my screen, I can't see you. But if you could walk our commission and our board through some of the things. And we recognize we need a very robust summer program. We need a very robust after school program. We're looking at before school programming, things to add additional supports to our students in a variety of ways. And this is just some of the stuff we're looking at. But what they put together is fantastic, and I'd like for them to share.
Does this fall under the student support
Yes,
component? Okay. Just so everybody.
This is some of that, yes.
Okay, just so everybody's clear as to where this will fit.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Graham, you did a wonderful job of introducing the work that Rachel and Barb have spearheaded. I just want to remind everyone too to keep in mind people at the heart of what we do. So this is not in any way just two great staff that are working on this, but the way they galvanize others through a real comprehensive process, beginning with vision and recognizing that lots of people had ideas of what summer could look like for our students pre-K through 12. And at the heart of it all was engaging our students, re-engaging our students in something that puts their hands on things, allows them to explore. Oftentimes we talk about the achievement gap. We don't talk about the opportunity gap as much as we should. So we've outlined some things that will get to engagement and get to opportunity. And yeah, there'll be some learning there too. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Barb and Rachel so they could walk through just how they engage staff, what they've created through a collaborative approach, and get some feedback so that we can engage our families in this opportunity.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Dr. Graham. It really has been, I've had a great time planning our summer program. We've had a lot of different teachers, administrators at all levels, at all subject areas, intentionally involving our EL and our special ed faculty to really design a program that we think is what our students need at this time. It's been a tough year, and I think everyone needs something that's fun. And so when we toyed with like intentional summer school versus more of a camp approach, we settled on a camp because we're going to disguise learning as fun. So our kids are going to get some socialization, some social emotional skill building, and a lot of academics through activities. Not going to realize they're learning. It's going to be a great time. So Barb, if you could, I think I screwed up when I did my view. Forgive me. It's like on huge, so I can't even see what we have. Okay, so here's the K-5 model. I'm going to let Barb talk about secondary, but I've been working with our elementary subgroup, and each of our camps are similar in nature. So for pre-K through 12, and when I say pre-K, those are our students who are currently preschool, who will be kindergartners next year. So when we're talking about grade levels, it's really those that are rising into those grades for the fall. So each camp will have about 200 participants. They will each be 2 weeks long, Monday through Friday, half of a day. We're looking at a 9 to 1 time frame. We recognize some of our students and our attendance over the last year that a 9 a.m. start seems to be the best fit. All of our camps will provide breakfast and lunch. And thanks to our operations team and Airmark, they will also have a bag or box supper to go home with them. All busing will be provided, and aftercare for our younger students will be provided through Boys and Girls Club. And we've been working with them to coordinate locations. So it'll be a seamless transition. So parents have a continuum of care for the full day if they need it, given their work schedules. And so each of our camps will also be hiring our high school students and some of our recent grads to serve as counselors. And they will do what we're calling table talk mentoring during meal times, as well as different times throughout the day through transition. All of our camps have activities built in for our students to be physically active as well as be engaged in the classroom, and they will be with their camp counselor. So Barb will talk more about this, but this is a great opportunity for leadership exposure for our older students. And so we really were intentional when we selected the locations for our elementary program. There will be 3 sessions each 2 weeks, one at Larkmore, one at Palm, and one at Washington. And they will all happen at different times in our calendar, giving families multiple choices for dates that work in their schedule, as well as giving families a neighborhood option if they feel most comfortable sending, say, their younger student to the same side of town. And so with that, I'm going to share with you a video. So Barb, if you could be poised for that. I'm going to talk a little bit about it before I show the video. We have partnered with Camp Invention. That is a program designed by the National Inventors Hall of Fame. And they have intentionally designed a standards-based, evidence-based curriculum around the subjects known as STEAM. So science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And so this curriculum has been done in Lorain and on a very small scale, thanks to the funding opportunities our local foundations have supported over the years. And so we thought this was a great opportunity to do Camp Invention on a larger scale for our elementary folks. And when our elementary team reviewed the curriculum and saw the activities, it was exactly what we had in mind. So there was no reason to reinvent the wheel. And so to give you a taste of what summer will look like for our little ones, I'll let Barb go ahead and play the video for you.
Get ready to kick off the summer with Camp Invention's exciting new program, Recharge. It's fun, easy to implement, and will ignite your students' passion for invention education into the classroom and beyond. Let the races begin with Road Rally. Campers enter a vehicle design lab and apply nature-based discoveries to create morphing vehicles using pulleys, propellers, and hydraulics. They modify their vehicles using biomimicry, then engineer ramps, tunnels, and other obstacles for a super road rally. Watch children launch their passion for physics with Duck Chuck. Campers travel the globe and put trajectory and velocity to the test by building a custom device to launch their international ducks back to their home ponds. As children test their devices, they explore entrepreneurship and create an exciting marketing campaign to promote their final duck chucking device. Big ideas come to life as your students become entrepreneurs in open mic. Hall of Famers offer inspiration as children reverse engineer a wireless microphone to learn about sound waves. Following the Camp Invention design thinking process, they ideate and prototype their own breakthrough invention. Campers discover the power of patents and trademarks as they step up to the mic to deliver their own unique, powerful pitch. Harness the power of the sun and nature with solar bots. Campers explore circuitry, energy, sustainability, and the science of sound as they make and adopt their own solar-powered robotic crickets. They create customized habitats and build their own DIY musical wings for a grand finale chirp-off. Recharge is the most flexible camp invention program to date, working in both traditional in-school and virtual at-home environments. Backed by our peace of mind promise, parents who are unsure if they will want an in-person or at-home program can register now and switch their camp experience selection up to 6 weeks before camp. For further peace of mind, Recharge has been tested for over 1,600.
Thanks, Barb. As you can see, Camp Invention does have both an at-home and in-person option. We are doing just an in-person camp experience. As we talked, our students really need the opportunity to re-engage and to be together and to experience being back in the district. And so we are doing that as an option, and all of the protocols coming with Camp Invention are designed with hygiene in mind due to COVID, and we will of course follow all necessary protocols per the CDC. Lastly, I just want to share a little bit about our Friday experiences. We will be taking kids on fun field trips that are also educational, and we are lucky that the Cleveland Cavaliers are partnering with us, and they will be coming to us, bringing a health and nutrition program along with actual physical activities, not just basketball, but exposing kids to all sports and really promoting a healthy lifestyle. So we're sure that we'll have to be turning our kids away when they hear about all these great fun things that they get to do this summer. So Barb, I'll turn it over to you for secondary.
Thanks, Rachel. So Coach McFarland is the one who brought this idea to all of us, and he led up the secondary level. And what his idea was with his team, again, we took a big team approach. So again, we're going to have a 2-week session, and this is going to be for the rising 6th to 8th graders. It's going to be at Lorain High School. We did adjust the time. We had a meeting earlier this afternoon. We are going to stick to the 9 to 1 o'clock time. But they are going to go on field trips Monday, Wednesday, Fridays of the 2 weeks. And the field trips consist of like going to the conservatory, taking a boat trip, going to play CLE, lots of nature center kinds of things. But Tuesdays and Thursdays, they really had an interesting approach. What they're going to do is they are going to actually allow the 6th through 8th graders to have an experience with the different CTE and different sports and different clubs. So on those Tuesdays and Thursdays, they might go off and have a cooking lesson with Chef Tara Dahlhausen, or they might go and do some welding. It kind of depends on what's available on that particular day. They might go do some drills or some golfing. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are truly going to be a time for them to just experience what the high school has to offer in regards to CTE, sports, and clubs. Rachel went through the fact that breakfast and lunch and then a bagged supper will be provided, free transportation, and then also the after school through Boys and Girls Club and the table talk for mentoring. along with that, we are also going to have a 2-week session for the 9th and 10th graders. We realize that the rising 9th graders and this year's 9th graders, so the 8th graders currently going into 9th grade and the 9th graders this year going into 10th graders, have not had the experience of looking at all that the high school has to offer. So we're going to offer a 2-week session for them. It's going to mimic the 6th through 8th session, but we're going to focus a little bit more on leadership with them. Again, the time is going to be the 9 to 1 and after school care, table talk, mentoring, etc. Again, leadership skills is going to be the focus. The part that, oh, I'm sorry, next slide, credit recovery. We are going to offer a 4-week session of credit recovery. This is going to be at the high school. We are going to offer Friday field trips as an incentive. Also, they could have the potential of the college and career exploration. We're kind of balancing between our, do we have 2 weeks of field trips and 2 weeks of career exploration? Again, breakfast, lunch, a bag supper, and aftercare through Boys and Girls Club if they need, and table talk mentoring. The thing that resonates most with me is the camp counselors. I think this is so exciting. In Lorain, we're talking a lot about culture, and we are going to actually ask for the teachers to recommend about 60 students. And these students are going to go through leadership training through Camp Invention. They're going to go through leadership training on mentoring. They are, the Boys and Girls Club have actually offered that they continue their work after our typical day, and they go off to the Boys and Girls Club for an additional couple hours working. These students, as long as they're 16 and above, will be paid. They will go on every field trip with the kids. They will be pretty much so in charge of the curriculum for the Camp Invention. So Camp Invention does their training. This is how Camp Invention actually does their processes. We're going to have the SEALS opportunity for these camp counselors. There's a SEALS opportunity for graduation requirements. And we're going to make it so that all students are welcome. So if they have any sort of specific needs, we can meet those. We're going to team up the counselors together so that we have a main counselor and a junior counselor. So if someone is maybe hesitant because they're well, I've never worked with kids before, we will have those people who will mentor the mentors. So the camp counselors is a really exciting piece for me, because I think that through all that leadership training, it has that potential of assisting the culture at the high school. I think it's just going to be a wonderful thing. So this piece is just laying it all out for you with the different dates and what's happening. You see that we have the 3 camp inventions, and then simultaneously we have credit recovery and the first high school exploration. And we had a meeting today. We have about 30 people on the team that we've been meeting with. We are going to send out the recommendation form to the teachers on the 6th of April and open the form up for parents to register the week we come back from spring break also, with the hope that we have everything, numbers by the 16th of April. And that's it.
Thank you, Barb, and Rachel, for that thorough explanation. At the heart of this is just fostering engagement, creativity, inquiry, and providing opportunities. And that's what we've are aspiring to do. And there's still a lot of things to continue to work out, but the power is seeing people excited about doing this work for our students as well. There's a genuine excitement in the group and the buzz. And it hasn't been easy. There's been conflicting viewpoints on what direction we should go. And we had to kind of, watching it just, people muscle it out in a group and reach a consensus and then be able to produce something that we can all get behind. is very exciting. And it also propels us into the future too, I believe. So when we talk about that exploratory piece for middle school, getting ready for that high school, whether exploring courses, those are things that we need to look at through our course offering audit, which is in our plan, right? So, we are doing things that are going to fuel our action steps moving forward. And to me, that's really exciting as well. We'll learn what, students are interested in and really be able to continue to provide that.
I have a quick question for Barb and Rachel. So hold on, let me get my mic going here. This is my daughter has her mic here at the house. So I was like, let me grab this mic real quick before they reverse engineer it. I love it. I'm absolutely in love with the whole concept. So our number one goal is to have kids fall back in love with school. It's not testing. That's not our number one goal. Our number one goal is to have kids fall back in love with school. Will there be a cap on the summer numbers? So is there an application process, and then who gets it? So what's the cap? If you don't have one yet, that's fine. And then my big thing is you create all this grandeur. You have all these kids. You have all this training set up, and then attendance becomes sporadic, right? So is there some incentive to keep kids engaged through attendance and parents updated? Because then it becomes just like school, where you have all of these great tools and things set up, and you have a 50% attendance rate. And that really is concerning.
Yeah, I'll start with the cap on participants. Michael, Barb, and I really beat that up before we concluded that we would set a 200 participant camp for each of the 2-week sessions, given that's roughly 20% of our population. If for some reason we get a huger, that's not even a word. If the response is just grand and it's much larger, then we'll do what we can to accommodate. We really don't want to turn away students. And so one of our thought processes was also just teacher willingness to come back. And so we've been working a lot with the LEA president to really think through how to advertise this for our teachers so that they're going to have a fun experience too. Like, I'm excited. I want to come to Camp Invention, to be a teacher. So as far as incentives, I appreciate that feedback. I think we'll really need to think about that. And what should we do? We're hoping that some of our carrots, like you get to see the calves on a Friday, is an incentive for some of our kids. We're hoping that different types of field trip experience, like I get to go to the zoo. We've talked about things like as fun as going to the lake, some swim skills, so really making it fun. The feedback that we got on Camp Invention from Miriam Engel, who's one of our teachers who's taught that program the last several years, is that the kids don't want to leave. They love it so much. So we're not as worried about elementary participation, but I do think we will have to think about our middle and high school student incentives. And I'll let Barb, you or Michael chime in if you've thought about that at all.
I think that the fact that we are utilizing the camp counselors, which are the high school students, and the fact that we're going to hold the camp for the middle school students at the high school, and we intentionally only made it 2 weeks long because we knew that if we were like, oh, we'll do this for 6 weeks, you end up having like sporadic, exciting things. Truly every single day is going to be a day of new adventure. So I think that we intentionally built it that way so that we would have the kids coming back and wanting to come back, not only for the items and the adventures that they're going to have, but also for the connections that they're going to make with the older kids and the people they're going to meet. And we do have that mentoring piece in. I know Rachel talked about the table talk. What we're going to do is we're going to have the, as they're eating breakfast, we're going to have like a conversation starter. And then the mentor is the camp counselor is actually going to be the person that starts that conversation. And I think between the conversations, the friends they make, the fact that the camp counselors are students themselves, and then all the activities, I don't want to be naive, but boy, like Rachel said, I would want to be there. I want to go. So I think that, and then, so being just 2 weeks long, that was super intentional.
I do have to agree with Dr. Sampson. I ran a summer camp in Elyria for 4 years. We had 80 kids every week. We did 1 week camps. We went to the Cavs. We went to Indians games. We took them swimming twice a week. We found that kids only came on the swimming days, and we did have to change it up for the incentives because we had a waiting list of kids that wanted to come but didn't get signed up. So I think that's a really good idea to have the incentives. There has to be something that if you don't come these couple days, you can't go on that Friday field trip to the zoo if you don't come so many days during the week. We had to do things like that because we had a long waiting list where kids just didn't show up, but they would show up for the swimming days and they would show up for, like you said, the field trip days that were the fun days. And we had high school counselors. We had full days planned and things. And we had to put incentives in as the years went on for the camp just to get participation on every day, not just those fun field trip days.
Thank you for that feedback. We'll certainly, I think that makes sense as far as attendance. We'll look at that for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback, considering that you had all the pieces parts that we are putting in place. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, you alluded to the staffing, and just to be clear, the camp program and as well as the credit recovery, that would be Lorain City Schools, teachers and staff, and would that be bid on just like a normal process, or is there something unique with that, or is it just basically how things kind of have been traditionally?
Yes, we've been working with Julie Garcia, the LEA president, and we'll also work with Mr. Jama for LAA to hire appropriately through the contracts our administrators and our teachers. Julie and Tim are both intentionally invited to a meeting with HR and Michael, Barb, and a few others just to discuss the bidding process. One of the things that we're just thinking about from COVID is like the teacher fatigue, so will we bid it as like each camp as a 2-week separate camp with then maybe options to take on more if you're interested. So we're going to look through all that and intentional about how we post that.
And thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for that question too. And I know, Julie was, right there. This is a unique type of posting too. We really haven't done this multiple level. Usually it's, you got the third grade reading guarantee stuff and you have the credit recovery, and we're mixing it in, and with that comes some additional considerations. So we want to honor people's time. We want to make sure that we're respecting the work that puts in. But as Rachel said, man, I'm really excited about just the breadth of it too, because let's be real. Like some people, we all want to take a deep breath during the summer. It's going to be the first time in a year some of us have gotten out and be able to do different things. So I think we've also met the teams met those needs too in just their planning of these opportunities.
Well, I think the 2-week window is probably a really great idea because that gives more flexibility. It's not a 6-week commitment as a normal quote unquote summer school program, or even a 5-week or 4, whatever. That 2-week, I think people would be more willing to say, okay, I can do 2 weeks and I can still kind of take that, deep breath, exhale, enjoy my summer, while at the same time doing some things that are a little more a return to normalcy as far as interacting with kids in school. So I think that's the 2-week window is a great less is more mentality, I think is good.
Other questions or comments from the board or the commission? I would just like to thank Rachel and Barb for their leadership. I pass them in the hallway. They're sticking my head in their office or theirs in mine. And they keep saying, Jeff, this is going to be awesome. You're going to love it. And I do what it is. I mean, it's just amazing what you put together. Barb, I appreciate the shout out to Dave McFarland. He planted the seed and this thing really took off. And to Michael's point earlier, many staff members were a part of this conversation. But again, it starts with your leadership and what you put together is just amazing. I'm very excited to watch this stuff unfold over the summer. What the spirit of what I hope you've seen up to this point, and then I think you'll see it carry on into the next phase of our conversation, which is the questions, the rest of the questions, I guess, that the commission posed in terms of information being shared tonight is centered around the high school. In essence, what's going on with kids in terms of graduation? What are your challenges? And I think more importantly, what are you doing about it? What interventions are in place, attendance pieces, those types of things. And I guess the update was, how are students in terms of graduation? What should we expect this year as compared to previous years? And one thing I do want to qualify is that the governor, I think it was yesterday, signed new legislation that kind of speaks to graduation and some of the changes that come into place. So I'm not sure if the high school team had a chance to update everything, but actually I asked folks to pump the brakes until ODE translates what the law means. Obviously, the ODE is a governing body for school districts. We have an idea of what the law means, and I think we have a pretty good idea of what it entails for Lorain City schools. But I just want to make sure that I qualify the conversation tonight. There appears to be a lot more flexibility in terms of helping students graduate as a result of the restrictions with COVID that are, I think, more fair for our students. But if I don't mind, Pat Coleman, can I defer to you to take the lead? Our high school principal, Pat Coleman.
For sure. Thanks. Give me just a second to share my screen. Get a slide deck in front of you. There we go. And move my Zoom thing around. Oops. Sorry. There we go. All right. Hopefully it's broadcasting loud and clear for you. Oops. Make sure I can shift. There we go. So first, thanks, Dr. Graham, and want to certainly thank the Academic Distress Commission members, Steve Cawthon, Patty O'Brien, Sel Rivera. I do want to take an opportunity to thank Michelle Solis for her service to our ADC, and certainly our ADC chair, Dr. Randall Sampson. Also want to thank our board members, Yvonne Johnson, Courtney Nazario, Bill Sturgill, Tim Williams, and our board president, Mark Ballard. We're really excited to have some time carved out for us to update you on our story here at Lorain High School. I do have several team members with me on the Zoom tonight that I'm going to pull in at various points to give you a more granular picture of what our work has looked like. So we have, you can see their names up there. Nick Becerra, our Director of Secondary Initiatives. We got Tim Jam on the call. He's our high school building administrator. And we have 3 of our assistant principals and or student support team leaders. We're going to talk a little bit about student support teams, what those mean for us here at the high school. Those folks are Brian Hilko, Takisha Jackson, and Nancy LaCorchek. So we want to touch on, I guess, really 4 big buckets. There seemed to be a theme around some of the questions. I think we'll touch on a fair amount during our presentation, but we want to certainly address anything we can during a Q&A session afterwards as well. So we're going to touch on graduation rates and current tracking and what that's looked like, certainly intervention. I want to touch base on attendance rates a bit, some instructional tiering that we're excited about, and then building culture, and more specifically, PBIS. Now, what I would say is we want all this to feel like it's kind of wrapped around an axle of intervention. In terms of, our vision, our identity as a high school. Unmistakably, we want to be about excelling at intervention. So, what do we do when a student needs an extra layer of support? We think we're exploring some really interesting space on this, and we're excited to share. I want to lead off again with discussing the graduation rate piece, because ultimately, this is always our number one priority. My number one concern is building principle. We expect every student to graduate in 4 years with the college and career ready skills associated with successful post-secondary transition. So you see some historic graduation rates up there. We started at 2018. First of all, it takes us back 3 years, so it's a decent amount of baseline data. 2016, 2017 actually had a slightly different algorithm, so we wanted to maintain kind of an apples to apples comparison. But you can see in 2018 we were 81.5%. 2019 we were 83.5%. 2020 we got over 84%, so 84.5. And 2021 we'll see. Now. I don't know how many know, but graduation rates actually calculated a year in arrears. So as an example, our students who don't meet the requirements, once we get to May 25th, and they do meet the requirements over the summer with some of the summer programming that was described, we expect this to probably be our biggest summer grad group ever. Those folks do count in our 4-year graduation rate. So we won't know the actual figure until fall of 2021. What I would see, and you see this at the bottom, unfortunately, with 2021, the trend that you see there, that upward trend, is not going to continue. We've known that for a long time. We've known that since July. Let's go a little bit deeper on why that is. So our 2021 cohort had 537 students in it, and this includes every student that's walked through our doors as a freshman or otherwise. We are currently responsible for 473 of those students, and the lower number factors out students that withdrew or transferred to other schools. And then of those 473, we started the school year with 393 kind of under our roof. So coming into the school year, if you take 473 as our denominator and 393 as our numerator, it basically works out to be a graduation cohort ceiling of 83%. And then if you want to get a little further in the weeds on our 393 students, we do have a group that we've identified. They've met all requirements and they're going to walk. So that's exciting. But we're at 151 of those students. We have another, and this will get a little softer because this is stuff we meet weekly on and talk to our counselors weekly on. So 151 is a hard number. The rest will be soft. We have 145-ish right now who project to graduate if they just continue doing what they're doing. So we have a lot of these students that are taking English 4 as a second semester course. It's a grad requirement, so they have to pass that course. So these kids are passing those current classes. They need to pass those current classes, and they currently are passing those classes. So they're on track to graduate from that standpoint. And then we have a group that we would characterize as being a little off schedule. The good news is they can still make it if they sprint through the tape. But this group is definitely a little bit swollen right now and a source of concern for us. We typically have about 50 to 60 kids in this group, and right now we're looking at 95-ish. I think the fact of the matter is, we've fought a level of non-academic barriers this year that we've never encountered, that as a school, and certainly our kids and families have never encountered before. Pandemic reality for us at the high school has been instances where kids and children have to make really, really difficult choices. Do they consider working right now and focusing on a GED pathway for the betterment of their household, to help take care of their siblings, that sort of thing, as opposed to graduating with this class? So really just some impossible decisions and situations for some of our kids and families. But that's kind of where the numbers lie right now. I want to focus quite a bit on what we're doing to kind of get these numbers looking as good as we can, and candidly just get as many kids across the stage here May 25th as possible. So jumping right around, excuse me. Beyond the hard numbers and data, I think an important part of our story is the interventions, the practices we're trying to put in place. And as you can see here, we've definitely tried to lead with, first of all, weaponizing and not taking for granted any of the typical and traditional senior level graduation interventions. So certainly hosting senior specific meetings, senior specific newsletters that are outlining important timelines and requirements. We've implemented a formalized relationship mapping in the form of a graduation guardian program that connects each senior with a trusted and caring adult. We've examined credit flex opportunities where we can medicate some manageable credit gaps, potential non-grad meetings. And I want to put a plea out there. You don't, folks, moms, dads, parents, guardians, you don't want your kiddos invited to the potential non-grad meetings, and kids, you don't want to be invited to these. We had 2 this past week, and these are those warning meetings where we tell you got to get rolling. Our counselors all year long have led a lot of individualized grad planning support. And last but not least, the big part of this has just been kind of old-fashioned roll up your sleeves muscle around the notion of a lot of time and energy on highly, highly personalized outreach and home visits by administrators, by safety team members, our attendance compliance officers. Our outbound support this year has been unlike anything I've seen in 22 years. I do want to take a second just to acknowledge the work of our teachers, first of all, on that, but our admins, our counselors, again, our safety team members, secretary, support staff. It has been an all hands on deck in terms of reaching out to families and trying to foster that school to home connection. We've been successful in some instances, but it's been a year where it's been tough because we haven't been successful in as many situations as we might like. So those are, again, kind of those granular traditional interventions that you would expect to see. But as we all know, we don't need to admire the fact it's been a very, very non-traditional year. So what I would say is, to this end, we have realized from pretty early on, we need to take a little bit of a different approach on some things. And so to scale back or go a little higher, one of the things we prioritize from a database perspective is really learning who our kids are, and not only who they are now, but who they've been. So our building leadership team's been the group that's really tackled that. They've kind of served as our data project team on this. We've kind of begun the process of sifting through years worth of cohort data to see where kind of those levers are, those early indicators. What are the relevant student profiles? What is the profile of a successful student? What is the profile of a student we lose? When do we lose them? Why? And again, so this has really defined our BLT work. And as we firm up these profiles, these types of questions, the answers that come from these types of questions, the levers, the indicators that we unearth, this is the type of information that's going to drive, not only intervention, but our curriculum, our course development, our program of study. It's going to drive every bit of who we are. One hard trend you can see in red there, that's evident already. It's not a huge surprise, but one of the things we're seeing is that the kids who we lose, the kids who drop out, they tend not to drop out during their senior year. So we typically lose kids a little bit earlier. And so when we talk about graduation intervention, this is not something that can start in March of a student's senior year. This needs to be campus-wide. Graduation intervention needs to be grade level agnostic. Graduation rate is a number we all own, and make no mistake, when our kids walk across the stage in 4 years, it's a number we're all part of and certainly take some pride in. So another piece here, again, the theme being a little bit of a non-traditional year and needing to kind of think a little creatively. And again, on the notion of making graduation intervention a systemic part of everything we do for 4 years. Structurally, we've established what we call student support teams at the high school, or SSTs. And the student support teams are really designed to disrupt what's a relatively common or standard approach, especially at big comprehensive high schools, where you tend to have a 9th grade assistant principal and then a 10th grade assistant principal. Instead, you can see our students are broken into 4 alphabetical strands, A through E, F through MI, et cetera. Plus, we have an early college SST. We have a Success Academy SST. But the idea is, with each of these strands, you have an assistant principal, you have a guidance counselor, you have a social worker, and a secretary assigned to each team. And structurally, the goal is for this to support the notion that our students and our families ultimately need trusted relationships with the people in our building. And each one of these strands or support teams will have theoretically one AP, one counselor, one social worker. So, and theoretically, again, when parents call the school, they'll speak to one secretary throughout their students' 4 years. So, and that works conversely as well. So our assistant principals, our counselors, they aren't getting to know 500 new kids at the start of each year. Instead, they're gonna have a group of students for 4 years. So again, the goal being for these SSTs to structurally support relationships, but also to help our big comprehensive high school feel smaller. We're firm that the small feel is going to help facilitate a more responsive, more targeted approach to academic support, to attendance related support, certainly to social emotional support, behavioral support, whatever those layers are that those students need. So we're excited, when we think about this structure, and you look at some of the tabs on Ross's spreadsheet and some of the big themes of our district strategic plan, certainly fidelity to UDL practices is something this aligns really well with. This, you can certainly, I think, see how this sets the table really nicely for some clean MTSS, multi-tiered system of support, practice and implementation. And again, so that alignment with the strategic plan is, again, something we're excited about. Now, I would say this is a very admittedly high level overview on the student support teams, but I do want to make sure I'm pulling some of our team members in here. So to get a little more granular with respect to what the student support team based intervention has looked like this year, I'm going to call on Brian Hilko. I think he's going to take us a little deeper and look at some of this through an attendance lens first.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coleman, thank you very much. Board, ADC, Dr. Graham team. Thank you very much to the team. As you look, next slide. As you look at our attendance, it is viewed in two different ways. The first being our classroom or period attendance, and the second being our daily attendance. When we speak of our daily attendance, we're speaking of the overall, if a student is there or if they are absent for the day. As you can see, the 18-19, 19-20 school year, they average around 86%. And then when we look at the classroom attendance, we are just around 85% for the past 2 years. Looking at the 2021 school year, you will see a dip. Average daily attendance has dropped by 10%, and average classroom attendance has dropped by about 12%. And this is where our SSTs come into play. We look at ways in which we can continue to support and look at the why behind each class absence, each daily absence. A huge shout out to our tech team, our team at the school as well, Anita Cruz and we also have Debbie Shivel, who are pulling multiple jobs during the day to support our families, and they're able to get a new laptop out to a kid within 10 minutes. If they need one, and if not, our safety officers have been a huge help to get them to their homes as well. Those were some of the reasons early on, and as we continue to dive in, Mr. Korchik is going to kind of blend how our attendance has impacted our academics.
Thanks, Mr. Hilko. I'm Nancy LaCorchick. This is also the moment that my dog has decided to have a major meltdown. We know his Zoom threshold now. So if there's some barking or yelling in the background, it is just my pit bull. So the thing is about this year, is that every quarter presented a new set of challenges where we had to invent systems that weren't standard and weren't traditional, and definitely aren't things that we're good at. We are the group that most of us carry around a backpack and wear tennis shoes to work because we spend a lot of our time meeting with kids and meeting kids where they are. Oh, you said you were going to science class today? Great. There I am standing outside your science class, making sure that happens. And then this year, we didn't start with anybody in the building. So we had to spend a lot of time doing different types of outreach. So first we kind of had to invent the systems for tracking and looking at that type of things. And then we had to get the tremendous amount of manpower that it took to do that. That fell very heavily in terms of what we're talking about tonight. Of course, on our teachers, on our safety team, who we could not have survived without during that first quarter, and then on our secretaries who were part of our SST. So we did a lot of a few of the standard things, some of the robocalls, but we also did a lot more outreach. And if we can click on the Google link, we should be able to see this. So this was just my SST's calendar of how we were tracking kids. I took out all of the names and then I did the super complicated system so nobody could say like I'm the fourth kid down. So like I moved them all around so that nothing is in order here. So normally when we talk about tiers of kids, we talk about 3 tiers. The Tier 1 should be the kids who get almost don't need a ton of intervention or just getting good quality instruction. Tier 2, and then Tier 3 would be our neediest group. We had to develop 5 tiers. So by the end of August, I think we had less than 10 families who we hadn't contacted. We were feeling really, really good. We're like, this is amazing. We've knocked on doors. We've called grandmas. We've gone down every single phone number that we had on file for those people. We found them. And then computer pickup came. It was like 6 days. There was actually a small hurricane during it. We persevered. We were super excited. I think we were down to less than 40 kids who had not picked up a laptop. And then we were like 2 weeks in, we're like, great, we have to just find these 40 kids. Everybody's off to a good start. And we're like, oh, wait, they haven't logged in? They haven't what? So we had to invent the system of trying to figure out how we talk about those kids. If we can stay on Q1 for just a second. So what you'll see here is their grade level, and we did this every single week. So their grade level, if they were a 5, they were a no-show. We did not know where they were. We weren't sure if they had moved and if they were one of our students. There was very limited number of those. A 4 meant that they had picked up their computer and there was nothing else. There was a surprising number of those students. We had not anticipated that that group would exist. A 3 were our kids who were kind of getting there, but not getting there with enough regularity. Our 2 are kids who are maybe missing 1 day a week. And then our 1s were kids who were doing just fine. They were going to all of their Zooms. What we found in Q1, it was a tremendous amount of wrong phone numbers and tech support. So we would call down this list and we would change every single week. I think that we made 765 phone calls. And again, I'm speaking for my SST because I have the data easily available. But this goes across the board with all 4 of those. We made 765 calls. Not all of those were contacts, but it's just 765 attempts to get families internet, to get families a computer that was working, to track down that they had moved. Our kids were incredibly fluid during this time because our parents had to be fluid. They had to take jobs out of town. They had to go and live with grandma for a little bit because their landlord sold their house with 2 weeks notice. So a lot of our kids were moving and changing. And we found that by doing this every single week for 6 weeks, we were able to keep up with it. However, very few kids, with the exception of the kids who were 5s, like we were able to find out where they were and that they were no longer our students, that none of these kids really moved. It wasn't getting any kid to go from, okay, I don't really want to go to school, I picked up my laptop, to saying I'm going to go to school. It was very, very small movement. So we completely switched our strategy for Q2. And so if you click on the Q2 tab, what we did is you'll see the grade level. We did 1 number, 1 tier. So 1 through 5, again, 1 being that they were passing everything, all the way to 5 for those handful of no-shows who were, 1 or 2 no-shows we were still trying to find. And then we assigned them a person on the SST. So myself, Missy Clark, Laura Gooch Brown, and Michelle Servans all took a group of about 25 students. And this is just 1 week of what we had gone through. So we had just taken, like I said, 25 to 30 students in our group, except for Missy Clark. She wants all of them. She's like, I will call every single kid on this list every day. Again, we were averaging about 700 phone calls. So this is just 1 week of tracking to try to move kids to become better at online school. You will see some of the things that I kind of highlighted in purple was that there were very few technology issues. And then we started to get to the root problem of why students weren't coming. They suffered horrible tragedies during this time that we didn't know about, that had we been sitting in school, we would have. And so, it took 6 phone calls to try to find where he was, and then try to find why he wasn't coming to school, and then get him hooked up with a grief counselor. We found a lot of students who were working. We would do home visits and find out that they were working during the day and that they weren't going to school because they were working 2 jobs at this point to support families. We found families who we would work with for 3 weeks and have really great success stories, and they would withdraw on Friday, and we would have no idea why did this happen. We didn't know that they were moving. We thought that things were going. So students who put tremendous amount of time and effort, where we're turning the corner, all of a sudden weren't our students anymore. And I say this because if you look, this is just 1 week of work, and I didn't even really choose the most advantageous. I just took a section of the alphabet and kind of scroll down of the kids who we were working with. None of these kids moved. We did not leave. We dove for every loose ball. We shot every shot that we could. We showed up on doorsteps. We texted. We called. We did tutoring. We did tutoring till 8 o'clock at night. We tried everything. These kids did not also fall a tier, which was maybe the best that we could have done at that time. So again, I just wanted to show just the level of outreach that we were doing, but the effectiveness of the outreach was nowhere near where we would want to be. The fact that we didn't slide all the way, that everybody all of a sudden is a 5, where we didn't know where anybody was really what we attempted to do. Or what we actually, not attempted to do. We attempted to get everybody to a 1. What we actually did was keep everybody from being a 4 or a 5. In the 3rd quarter, we switched to moving everything to Power School, so it's just not as easily accessible as this, but you will see a similar thing to what we did quarter 2. That just contained way too much student information to share out. But again, averaging about 700 calls a quarter, trying to move that needle for our students. I'm going to turn it back over to Hilko to talk about next steps.
Thanks, Nancy. So as Nancy said, these were not the results in which we hoped for. However, as a team, we have gone over about 6-7 different types of tiering systems. We have asked others. We have done our research, and we feel that this system has created a strong foundation for our team for years to come. To be able to, next slide, sir. To be able to know exactly where our kids are, what they need, and to be able to support the great teachings which goes on each and every day. Our goal is to get every single student to class every single day, and to knock down those non-academic barriers which have been multiplied by this pandemic. Our goal is to ensure that our families and our students know that we care about them as people first, and that we need you there each and every day. And then to identify key interventions through the MTSS model with a strong data-driven approach. And to continue to refine the practices of our SSTs as we grow each year, to continue to get to know our families and those returning families. We that we will know as they walk through our doors this upcoming August. And at this time, I am going to turn it over to the one and only Takisha Jackson, who will talk about PBIS and our culture and supports.
Hi, everyone. I'm Takisha Jackson, and as we heard earlier in the presentation from one of the members on the team, we want kids and we want our students and our staff to fall back in love with being at school. And we have to make sure that we are creating a positive environment coming off of this pandemic. Pat, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. We know that in order for us to reach the social competence and the academic achievement that we want, we have to use PBIS as our primary tool to support and grow a great student and staff culture at Lorain High School. We want our staff members and our students to be excited to come into our building every day. And we know that we have to get our data systems and practices in line and together in order to achieve that. Go ahead. PBIS is a framework that's designed to improve and integrate all data systems and practices affecting student outcomes. There are 3-tier systems of support, and they're aligned to students' individual needs. Taking a look at the first tier, tier 1, this is where we implement our school-wide interventions for all learners to prevent behavior challenges. We want to make clear what our behavior expectations are. We want it to be very visible, taking advantage of the print shop that we have as one of our career tech avenues, making sure that students have access to print to see what our expectations are. In the cafeteria, they should know what the expectations are in the cafeteria. In the hallways, they should know what the expectations are in the hallways. And we need to have an acknowledgement system for students who are doing the things that we need them to do. Social skills and instruction and active supervision and engagement are key to helping us push through tier 1 for all of our students. This is our 80%. Now, we know that some of these percentages, when we start to climb up the pyramid, are going to be a little inflated as far as after the pandemic, post-COVID. These numbers may be a little bit bigger than 15 and 5. But tier 2 is our specialized interventions for learners who are at risk for academic or social failure due to behavior challenges. And these students, you want to provide that extra layer of support. They should have a check-in, check-out person. They should have access to social skills groups, small group counseling, restorative justice circles, and/or conflict resolution. The next tier is for the 5% of kids who really have some struggles and have faced some trauma. Individualized interventions for students with intensive and chronic behavior challenges. And these students, we would look at things like individual therapy, functional behavior assessments, behavior intervention plans, wraparound services and support for those students. And again, we are hoping that the percentages stay in that range, but we do know that we may see some influx in the 2 and 3 area due to the after effects of the pandemic. Our PBIS team initial steps were basically to follow the direction of the Lorain School District PBIS team. We had to initially disseminate district information and expectations on maintaining safe conditions for all students and staff members. We were there to bridge the gap between safety and education. We had to build a team of positive solution-oriented LHS staff members, and I think that we did that. I'm just going to quickly go over the staff that we have. Our team, although predominantly female, as pointed out by Mr. Scott, it is still a very diverse team, and they offer a lot of different experiences, perspectives, and viewpoints. And I really, really can appreciate them for that. Carol Carruthers is an intervention specialist. Mary Jo Ferguson is a teacher in the building. Brian Hilco is the AP that just presented, and myself, I'm also on the team. Krista Lockage is a career tech teacher. She's a computer science teacher. Elisha Neely is one of our social workers. Sandra Peliquin is an English language learner teacher. Molly Tyson is a teacher in the building and also an all-around tech guru. She's been a great resource this year. Moving on to the next slide. These are some things that we have done just to kind of get some spirit back in Lorain. We wanted to make Spirit Week easily accessible for kids who are hybrid and remote. So they had the option to take a picture and send it in. Mr. Hilco illustrated where they could just send their photo to a link. We had a slideshow of Pet Day that was really awesome. There were a multitude of different things that you could participate in. This first slide up here is Hat Day. Ms. Mondak absolutely killed Hat Day. I think that train was about 3 feet long. We had a teacher that dressed up as Elsa on Character Day. We had a student share a really sweet picture of him and his pet. Just some things to keep the school year going and give us some more normalcy, get us back to what school is supposed to feel like. Next slide. When we made the decision to switch over to hybrid, seniors were given masks who opted in for hybrid, and they were so excited to receive their bags. There were also little other treats in there. They were excited to receive their masks, and we can often see them around campus with their senior masks on, and it's kind of, their thing only. So another great thing, just to kind of give them something back because they've lost so much as a result of the pandemic. We can move on to the next slide. Moving forward, LHS PBIS team wants to focus on ongoing database monitoring, evaluation, and dissemination of important information. The team will come together regularly to review behavior and academic data and make decisions on student-specific interventions and supports. Procedures for selecting, training, and coaching new personnel. We are fully aware that the key to implementing this PBIS framework is a consistent team that has access to training and coaching as it becomes available. We are going to use the tiered fidelity inventory to help us through this work. I'm very excited about being a part of this team. I am so grateful for the opportunity to be here and implement PBIS on a high school level. A lot of times people think that PBIS is just an elementary or middle school initiative, or it's ticket-based, or it's prize, it's a reward thing. But really, it's about intervening early and often in students' lives and clearing a path for them, helping to make a way.
Great job. Thanks, team. And then I thought we'd end on somewhat positive note here, and something I'm sure folks are interested in. So prom and commencement are coming at us, and with that, hopefully a little bit of a sense of normalcy. So, whoops. Sorry about that. With that, a little bit of a sense of normalcy. So just a couple of bits of information I want to share, because I want to share what we know. With respect to prom, it is set for May 7th. And let me read a little bit here. We are not allowing out-of-district guests. We want to keep kind of a tight LHS pod. We will be selling tickets to all LHS seniors. We're excited about that. Ticketing is going to be handled digitally or electronically. It's going to be some information coming out probably tomorrow with some specifics on that piece. Everything we do with respect to prom is going to be pending approval, or really I should say in partnership with the Lorain County Board of Health. They've been very generous with their time advising us on everything, and prom won't be any different from that. Transitioning to commencement a little bit, we're super excited about this. It is going to be Tuesday, May 25th at 7 p.m. It is going to be held outside at George Daniel Field. That's a big tradition here, and it hasn't been outside at George Daniel Field for a number of years, so we're really excited to be, I guess, reestablishing that transition. It is going to be a traditional ceremony, not a virtual ceremony, meaning all students are going to participate in the same ceremony and walk across kind of the same stage that night. So again, we think that'll be a really, really fun night. We do anticipate some limitations on the number of tickets available to each graduate. Some more information will be coming soon on that. The ceremony will be live streamed via TV20. And then important to note, because this is going to be a change, if the weather is angry on that day, we will not be having an alternative venue. We will not be moving the ceremony inside. We will instead be having a backup rain date. So again, if the weather just won't cooperate with an outdoor ceremony on Tuesday, May 25th, we'll be looking at Wednesday, May 26th. But again, really, really excited about prom and commencement coming up. Again, with that, hopefully a sense of normalcy. So again, we thank you for your time. Hopefully we addressed some of the questions, some of the things you're wondering about, but maybe not everything. So if there's questions, we want to stay on and address everything we can for you.
I appreciate that. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Pat, and you and your team for again, a very thorough explanation of what reality is in our high school. I just want to qualify a couple of pieces here before we open it up to questions from board members and from commission members. First of all, there's Pat mentioned the 83% cap because of the number of students we lost. The way it's calculated is, and I'm going from memory because that screen's not up, but we had 537 students who started high school as freshmen in our district a few years ago. So that's the number of students we're responsible for. However, if a student transfers out, and we know where that student went, then that student is no longer on our books. We have 140 students who are not a part of that, and we're still in the process of tracking down where some of those students went. Obviously, this has been an odd year for a lot of things, but we also have additional challenges. Not making excuses, we have additional challenges in our district when students leave. For example, if they leave the state, it's tough to track them down. If they go back to Puerto Rico or Mexico, it's tough to track them down. So we do have some struggles in terms of tracking down our students, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those students have officially dropped out. So there's still more homework to do on our part. The other piece I want to share too is some of the challenges, and Nancy was talking about some of this stuff too when it comes to trying to getting to know our kids a little bit and trying to track down where they're from. I just want to let folks know, and for some of you it's a reminder, for some of you it's new information. When you look back at the 2019 graduating cohort, and this is consistent, relatively consistent for our students, we don't even meet, about 50% of our students are new to the district in high school. So a lot of these students are students that we've never met before. Some have transferred in and out, but a lot of those, they come from charter schools, come from other districts. But I think in the 2019 graduating cohort, 52% of those students who would have been part of that cohort transferred in at some point in high school. So the first time we've met these students is when they're 15, 16 years old. So we have a lot of challenges to go along with that. Again, not an excuse, it's a challenge for us, which actually is one of the reasons why our strategic plan goal is what it is. To make sure our students are on pace to graduate. Now, what that means is if you come in and you're a credit deficient sophomore, you better start running faster. So again, it's all about the pacing piece to make sure our students are ready when they hit that fourth year of high school. But I just want to make sure those 2 points were clear. There's still work to be done in terms of tracking students down, and we're on it. And the other piece is we do have additional challenges because a lot of these kids are strangers to us. Until high school. So it's a fun challenge because we welcome everyone. But in terms of trying to make connections and establish relationships, it's a little tougher because, again, we were strangers until this year. Okay, so if I could now open it up to questions from board members, commission members.
All right. High school folks, very great job. This has to be one of the hardest jobs in America is at that high school level. Because there's so many moving parts, so many different things happening at the same time. And then word about a kid leaving the country and trying to track him or her down to figure out where they are and how to help them. That's tremendous effort. So for the graduation piece, we're talking, 16%, 17% of kids that can't be found from that number. So it was like 80 kids or something like that we're missing. And there's a process to figure out where they are, correct?
Dr. Sampson, Dr. Graham, I just talked over you. I'm sorry, please go ahead. I just wanted to say that of those kids, that there are students who I think we're down to 6 who we're not sure where they are. They don't seem to be matching up. A lot of these students have chosen to drop out or are significantly behind in the credits in order to be able to do that. So we do know where some of those students are, and a lot of them have decided to pursue their GED, which is significantly higher than previous years. I think the number is around 6 of kids who were just like, oh, they said they were going here, but they didn't. So I don't want it to seem like there's 80 kids where we're unsure or where they are or who we've lost. Unfortunately, we know where they are.
Okay, so if we can get an update on those numbers, and it doesn't have to be tomorrow. So whenever you guys have your update, you run your weekly updates or whatever it is bi-weekly, just share that with us so that way it can become part of public record that there aren't just 80 kids out there floating around, that it's actually a different number, which is in the positive. And then my other question for the high school folks, I know it's a press at the end to get kids across the stage to graduate in 12th grade. Do we have a current credit audit for 9th graders who are on track with their credits that they should have by the time they're 9th grade, 10th graders who are on track, 11th graders, like Dr. Graham said, Do we have a current credit audit? And then if we do, what percent of ninth graders are on track with the credits they should have passing their classes? What percent of 10th graders have the appropriate credits that they should have? Does that exist currently, or is that something out of the practice right now?
We do. I would just hesitate. I want to take some time to get you the hard numbers. So we absolutely do. We can kind of get that to you offline in the form of an update alongside the information you just requested. So absolutely. I just don't want to speculate.
And again,
no, that's great.
Doctor, I just want to comment too that the ninth graders and the current 10th graders, they have all year classes. So we really don't know the finalized credit till the end of the year. So we have an idea of who's doing well or not doing well. But again, all the assistant principals and everybody on the screen is reaching out to these kids to try to get these kids pass these classes. So it's always going to be a moving number until the final is done. Again, it's like, last year when we finished school in March, we didn't have any computer. I mean, I'm just not giving excuses, obviously, but now we're kind of in a mode where the kids are transitioning and they know how to use the computers and stuff. So I think even the graduation rate, I think I've been in high school a long time. So I think these seniors, we just had me and Pat and the counselor just had a senior meeting with the kids that potentially are not passing classes. And that's all they need to do until we find out about the new bill that passed. But I think you're going to see these kids come through. Lorain kids are really strong, and the teachers in the high school are really strong. Like they're gonna pull through these kids, and they're gonna get these kids to walk across that line. I mean, so the numbers right now, again, like the graduation numbers are gonna. I don't see them. They're gonna get a lot better, in my opinion, just based on the teachers and the kids finally coming through. But again, like the 9th and 10th grade question is, I guess you can see potentially who's not passing and behind. And it's a big struggle for a 9th grader being on a computer coming from 8th grade, not being on a computer in 8th grade, because I was at the middle school last year. So they're really, I think it's going to get a little better, but again, we don't know the numbers till those classes are done. So.
Yeah. So, just from hearing your processes that you guys have in place, some of these processes are airtight. This one seemed a little wobbly. So we just have to tighten it up and figure out exactly where the breakdown is, make sure there's a process in place. And we can't wait until the end. That's where it starts to go sideways, right? So you have that process of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the intervention tiers that you guys went through. And if a kid is halfway through a year-long class and by mid-year they have an F, they're probably a 3 or whatever that number is that alerts you that, okay, we gotta do something here because this kid's falling behind. So if there's a system set up like that, that gets a little bit more confidence from me, because I want to get this thing going to where you can be automated. The system lets you know when kids are 50%, 70%, 80%, 90% possible graduation.
And Pat, we do have that information. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess, could I get clarity on the wobbliness?
I think we said a couple different things, and I think that one contradicted the other and brought confusion. So yeah, I think that, and I agree, Tim, that the numbers are not hard until the class is finished, but we know which students are on pace and which students are not.
Right, but
I think your point, Dr. Sampson, I think we can provide you that information.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yep, that's.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because for the layman out there that's joining the meeting that doesn't understand all the nuts and bolts that we as the professionals are talking about, it gets a little diluted in the message. So I just wanted to clarify that.
They're not finalized until June, but we know exactly where our kids are along the way. And I also want to thank Nancy LaCorchek for correcting me and clarifying my comments. I think I blended two different conversations I had on that topic. So I appreciate you clarifying that.
And then question address. I'm sorry, Dr. Sampson. We have weekly meetings with our counselors. We have a pretty good feel in terms of who's trending towards graduating right now. Like I said, that number is 151. They've met the requirements. Who is trending towards it, I should say, and they just need to continue to pass their classes. We're in the 140s. Probably only off by a couple there. And then, like I said, we got 90 some where we're concerned. Like right now, they need to pass a class they're currently not passing. So we have a real good idea of what those numbers are. Tim is correct. They shift almost daily based on reports we're getting from teachers. Kids move from red to yellow to green, that sort of thing. And we're having conversations at every possible time to nudge them in every way we can. But
so you mean to tell me you're dealing with teenagers that are unpredictable? No way.
Not in Lorain, no.
No, not here.
But I didn't want it to leave as if we don't have a good command of what those numbers are and what that information looks like. We're on it.
Right.
I have a
and
question.
Things are fluid when you're dealing with young adults, right? So at 15, 16, 17, even younger than that, things are very fluid. We're not dealing with widgets. We're dealing with human beings that goes through an emotion of things all in one academic class period. So we have to be cognizant of that. So I appreciate all the hard work that's taken into that and the consideration you guys are making.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I just have one question for clarity. As it relates to the number of kids in the class cohort, and the number of kids who we are aware of, maybe have moved, whatever, was it stated that we are aware of all but the location of 6 students from that 500 plus cohort?
That's what Nancy said. And I was thanking her for clarifying my comment. I think I was confused. I think I blended 2 different conversations that I had.
Okay, but so the accurate thing then is we are aware of, we only have 6 people who are outstanding that we don't know where they are.
That's correct. That's based on what Nancy said. I trust her numbers, obviously. But I think what where I was confused is I think what they are counting students that are still here that are just not on pace, if I understood Nancy correctly.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the spreadsheet right now and like sorting and figuring it out like one more time to make sure that I'm giving every accurate number. So the currently, so the this report comes from EMIS. And so if you have a kid in the 40s, the kid who's coded as a 40 means that they moved and did not enroll in another school. So they told us that they were going to Cleveland Heights. They never showed up in Cleveland Heights. So that number is really small. The number of students who are in the 70s are students who decided to drop out for various reasons. So 71 means something slightly different than 72. Like 70, I'm not the EMIS expert. So like 71 means like I went to go get a job. 72 means I went to get my GED. 73 means I'm over 18 and decided school isn't for me and I'm done. So each one of those 70 codes means something slightly different. And then there's students who are currently here who don't have enough credits to reasonably be considered on track to graduate. So of those students then, so that's where we get like the 393 are the students who are like here and on track and ready to graduate. So we know where some of those students are in that gap, in that they're not our students anymore. They've made the hard decision to not continue their education. And that's a number that comes that Mr. Coleman was talking about, that decision is very rarely made walking into senior year, that is very often made in their 2nd or 3rd year of 9th grade. And that's the part that we absolutely need to start getting better at. And we have been getting better at, but it is very slow chipping away. I shared this out, Dr. Graham, so that way you can have the numbers, estimates, as well as these are like coding things, right? In the computer, these, like we're talking about people's kids and people's, like, that's how we talk about them when we talk about them at graduation meetings that Tim and Pat hold with counselors every single week. My job is to crunch the numbers in the EMIS part of it. So that's just looking at it from who's a 70, who's a 41. What Tim, Pat, the counselors do every week is who are we losing? Who do we have? Who's not there? Who's, who are we trying to get back? Who decided to make a wrong choice and is sitting right back in here because someone said, no, you're finishing. So I hope that helps. I will make sure that Dr. Graham has the exact numbers to share out. And well, he has them in his inbox currently.
I got him. Yeah, thanks.
So then I have a second question. So of these students we're talking about, these would be folks who would be in that 4-year graduation rate. How does this express itself into the 5-year? Do we have any indicators that some of these students that won't make the 4-year graduation rate would be on track to make the 5-year graduation rate?
Very much so. Very much so. I can, for those kids, when we look at our 5-year graduation rate, we have gone up. So I ran the numbers this year. For previous years, and if I'm talking too much, I can certainly pass it back to you, Dr. Graham and Ross. So for the 5-year graduation rate,
answers start coming.
yeah, it is it's calculated on like the same group of kids and slightly different, because Dr. Graham said very often we have kids who move in as 5th-year seniors. And so they come in, and so the numbers aren't going to quite match. But we have been super successful with Success Academy and the career tech programs with getting them the credentialing and the skills that they need. So our 5-year graduation rate has generally gone up from the district rate. So that's all I've ever looked at the past 3 years, is how the district rate's calculated, not school by school, is generally gone up like 5 to 6% every single year. So we do a very good job of getting as close to that ceiling as we can. So again, we talk about that ceiling for kids who are have decided to drop out or are significantly credit behind. So we catch up with the maximum that we can do.
I just think it's important to highlight that, because there's what's optimal in 4 years, but the reality is, especially when we get kids in different stages coming into the district, we probably need to look at that more closely to calculate that into our delayed success rate, if you would say.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
we can be very proud of that. Thanks.
And also, I want to just make a comment too. I know I did share with Dr. Graham in one of the meetings that only reason I'm off screen, my kids are home, they're pounding on my door, so I don't want to. It's and the dog's going crazy too. So, a few years back, we did some kind of, we checked on how many kids come in and out of the high school. It was 600 and some transitions between, it could be multiple kids leaving multiple times or whatever, but 600, withdrawals or coming in happened in 1 year in the high school. So you can see it's a real transient group. Obviously we know that. And that always leads into the numbers too. Like Nancy's saying, like tracking is difficult sometimes because the kids come and go and they leave. We don't even know they leave. So it's just really tough. That's all.
And I have to say that Nancy is like a national treasure to our district. She is, she knows stuff about this graduation rate that I went through EMIS training, and I'm still learning from her. At the end of every year, Nancy would bring me like different lists, and she was explaining things. So she really knows her stuff. And Nancy and I were calling and finding Facebook posts and we tracked down kids and tracked. We have been able to track down every child last year, right, Nancy? And actually the year before. So for her to say that we're down to 6 at this point, that really is a great thing. So thank you, Nancy. Just need to say that.
To Barb's point, when Nancy has a spreadsheet in front of her and starts citing EMIS codes, everyone's blood pressure in the room goes down.
Well, I hope that you've seen, I'm sorry, Pat, go ahead.
Are there other questions we can address? Sorry.
I hope from what you've seen tonight is consistent with what you've seen in the past and what you'll see in the future, which is building a culture of collaboration. We all work together very well. What I mean by that is we constantly lean on each other to make sure the work's getting done the right way, and that our focus remains on meeting the needs of the children we serve as well as their families. So if there's any other questions, please let me know on any of the topics we talked about tonight, or questions you'd like us to follow up with you on.
And Dr. Graham, as people are processing this information, because everybody processes at different times, as they're processing this information and tomorrow, next week, or whatever the case, if they do have a question, how do they get that to you or the team, the appropriate
You've
people?
all got my cell phone number. Call me or shoot me an email, and we'll process it and get it back to you. And if one of you sends the question, we'll respond to all of you.
Okay.
And if you're a member of the community, same concept. Give me a call or please shoot an email, and we'll meet, talk about whatever you want to talk about. I think it's very important, and it's not just, the information we're sharing is not just to the commission members and to the board members, it's to our community. So the whole idea is that we're all working on this stuff together. So any suggestions that anyone has out there on how we can get better, please let me know.
All right. And with that, I think this team has done a masterful job starting initial phases and having a clear process that's intact at the district level that's supporting the high school for their endeavor. So this, and I heard it come from somebody else, this has not been a push down endeavor. This is a ground up, roots up kind of endeavor, including everybody. And that's what local control is all about. Those are the tenets of local control. And that's what we're all here for. We want to see educators in the building level, principals, support staff, all working together to make this thing happen. And seeing the district support it and decentralizing this component is very important. It's critical. So that local level is key, and that's what we've been pushing as an ADC and as a school board and as a school district, is to get that local control back at the local level. And you're demonstrating. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to demonstrate it with clear action steps. It might not be perfect every time, and there's going to be bumps along the road, but that's every school district across America. And I would venture to say that I've seen a lot, and the process that you guys have in place right now to track day by day, week by week is phenomenal. There's not too many districts out there with that level of detail, and they all have their local control, and nobody's doing it as effectively as you're doing it. So kudos to you and the team for doing that.
Thank you. We have good people. That's
yep, absolutely. And before we adjourn from our end as the ADC, I also would like to give a deep-hearted thank you to Dr. Michelle Solis for her service with the ADC. You know, it's the service that she has provided is immeasurable. The gravity that she brought to us as far as the importance of the work and staying focused on the kids, staying focused on underrepresented populations, and making sure that we fight for those kids to have a pathway to success, whatever that pathway is for those kids. So her heart has really been in this. And then the opportunity came along for her to get her dream job, and it just happens to be out of state. So she's in the same capacity as far as helping kids and helping underserved populations reach that middle class, upper middle class goal that they all want, and that American dream that they want. So we are definitely thankful for her for that, and so sad to see her leave, but happy at the same time knowing that she's going to have a broader impact to help kids and their families. Specifically, the kids that she cares about the most are underrepresented students of color and families that come from struggle. So we are definitely thankful for that as an ADC, and I know the board has the same sentiment, and I heard you guys say that at the district level as well. So I just wanted to make sure that we publicly acknowledge her and thank her for her time and tenure on the ADC.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, and for other business as far as the ADC, any other ADC members have anything to add before we adjourn? At this juncture, I don't think we're going to go into, we are not going to go into executive session. There's no need for executive session at this juncture. So we will move to adjourn. Before we adjourn, does the Lorain School Board have anything else?
We do have a few items that we need to cover within our meeting, so we'll make it pretty quick. I'll just jump back into our number 5 hearing of the public. We don't need to do that, but approval of the minutes from March 8th through, I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
So Courtney motion, let's use Tim as a support. Roll call.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson. Mr. Sturgill.
Yes. Thank you for that. Number 7, we have old business. Having nothing in old business. Recommendation of the treasurer. Tia, do you have anything?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. And important recommendations of the CEO, and just cover everything that you need to cover in this slide, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like the board to consider for approval items 3.01 to 3.04 personnel matters.
Motion to approve.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
and Ms. Johnson.
I would like the board to consider for approval, 4.0 items 4.01 to 4.07, operations matters.
So moved.
Support.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
and Ms. Johnson.
Is that it?
Oh, that is all I have for you this evening.
Thank you, sir. We have the second hearing of the public. Looks like we're done. So our next meeting will be on April the 12th at 5 p.m. at the school. Is there any other business that we need to be brought before the board? Seeing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson, and Mr.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
And with that, Mr. Sampson, we'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So with ADC adjournment, can I get a motion
Motion to adjourn?
and a second?
Second.
All right, ADC has adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great March Madness and get back to some normalcy, but stay safe at the same time. We appreciate everybody out there.
Dr. Sampson, thank you.
Great
Thank
job
you.
tonight, team. Thank you all.
Good night.